Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radical Age Reversal. We are in the book Eat to Beat Your Diet, and we're on page 24 today. We're going to talk about something that might surprise you. It certainly surprised me, and that is, can you be skinny fat? Wait, what? How can you be skinny and fat? Well, if you recall, we've talked about two different types of fat. We talked about adipose fat, which is the squishy fat that we all try to get rid of because we hate the way it looks. And there is the sneaky, very evil, visceral fat that hides around our organs and actually causes the most damage in our body. And so today we're going to talk about people who may not have adipose fat, but they have visceral fat. And it's that visceral fat that's causing them all kinds of problems. So let's look at what Dr. William Lee says about lean, fat people. So, one of the big things that we need to focus on today is diabetes. And I think all of us know people who are diabetic. My father was a diabetic. He didn't develop diabetes till later in life. It was called, or it is called, type 2 diabetes. And it's usually a lifestyle based diabetes. And oftentimes, and this was widely spoken of years past. Now I feel like we're just jumping to those drugs as soon as we possibly can, anytime our lifestyle gets out of control. But just remember that a medication is there to stop something your body is naturally doing. And although there can be some life saving measures attached to certain situations, for long term management, most doctors will share with you it's not their number one choice. So, why is that? We don't want the body to stop its natural reaction to what we're doing because that is the body's way of trying to manage and heal itself. What it should be is an indicator to us that we need to think about what we're doing and change our lifestyle. However, when we introduce some of these drugs that stop what the body's doing and take it in a different direction, we're not getting to the root cause of the problem. And when we don't get to the root cause of the problem, we may actually mask a warning sign that's really critical to our long term health. And so, for those of you who may be dealing with diabetes, too, right, this late onset lifestyle related diabetes, I would really encourage you to look at what a healthy lifestyle would look like so that you could reverse your diabetes and remove yourself from the drug protocol. Of course, whatever you decide to do is between you and your doctor. I just see mounting evidence that shows that lifestyle changes can be the most effective way to manage type 2 diabetes. So he says type 2 diabetes is closely linked to having too much body fat. And he says the two are so closely related that it is now coined diabesity. So people who are obese have a higher likelihood of also having diabetes. Now, how does it disrupt our metabolism? I think that's an important thing for us to know. Researchers at Harvard discovered that excess fat stresses out a part of your cell's internal machinery called the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, you don't have to remember that, you just have to know it exists. When this kind of stress occurs, your cells have a hard time responding to insulin. Now, remember, insulin is something, it's a hormone that's produced in our body every time glucose enters our bloodstream. And it's a way of managing the amount of glucose that's entering our bloodstream. When we become insulin insensitive, what happens is we end up with too much insulin running around your body, which also is a stress response, which can have some damaging effects. And we don't get the results that we want. It's like kind of we wore out our pancreas, if you will. So, when the cells become insensitive to insulin, your blood sugar level rises despite the presence of insulin. So, I always think of it this way. Have you ever been in a classroom where the teacher just can't maintain control of the classroom? We all know it. I just want you to imagine like walking down the hallway of a school and you see that classroom where you see that teacher and you see the children responding, and there's a great relationship going on there. There's communication, verbal and nonverbal, right? I remember when I was a teacher, even when my kids were in school, Like sometimes a teacher could just give a look to little Johnny and he would know exactly what was going wrong and he would whoop, get himself right back on track. Other times you have a situation where the teacher is actually new, a relationship hasn't been built, or the teacher just hasn't created a good communication situation with this classroom and the kids are out of control. That's what happens in your body when insulin is insensitive. So, usually, insulin, being the teacher, would walk in, and when sugar rises, it would modulate itself. But when you have a body who doesn't like have a good relationship with insulin, when it's not the favorite teacher, when it doesn't get the signals or it just ignores them, you end up with diabetes or you end up with insulin insensitivity that leads to diabetes. So, do you want your body to be a well managed, happy classroom where kids are learning and the teacher is relaxed? Or do you want to have a body that's a stressful classroom where everybody's chaotic, everything's out of control, and the one thing that's supposed to create order, insulin, is not able to do its job? I would say for most of us, we're looking for that fun teacher, that teacher of the year, right? That ordered classroom where you know the teacher is getting the work done, the teacher is well respected, and the kids are learning and functioning at a high level. That's what happens when your body's in balance. And that's what you can achieve. And also, of course, when you have really good insulin sensitivity, you're going to live a long, happy, healthy life. And that's the goal of our show, right? To teach you tools. I mean, to give you tools, to teach you tricks so that you age differently than the people that you see around you. And because you age differently, you're going to be an example to others and they're going to say, hey, what are you doing that I could be doing differently? And that's our goal at Radical Age Reversal. So, what do we have to do? We have to remember that too much visceral fat is going to stress out our endoplasmic reticulum. So, the link that they found in obese individuals is 80 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes in someone than average weight. We kind of know that, right? Like if you're obese, your chances of getting diabetes is high. But what about those skinny people? What's going on there? But truly surprising fact is that a slender person can also develop this form of diabetes if they have too much visceral fat. Now remember, that's the fat that's hanging around your organs. Do you see it? No. Can you really feel it? No. But is it doing damage? Yes. And that's actually good that we know. And what is that visceral fat attacking? It's attacking the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay. So that's the thing that we want to make sure is doing its job. 15% of people with type 2 diabetes are a healthy weight. This is known as lean diabetes. So we want to talk about this group. You might say to me, well, my gosh, Carrie, do you see that so many people are obese in the world? Yes, I do. Shouldn't we be focusing on that large critical crisis that's happening in America? Absolutely. But I'm concerned about the 15% too, because I know that there are people out there who are trying to do the right thing. The other group that I want to talk about, actually, my daughter introduced me to in high school, and I'm going to share who they are, and I'm going to ask you if you know these people. All right. Do you know someone who can eat the bag of chips, eat the large sundae, drink the bottle of wine, and stay thin? I think a lot of us know those people, especially in our teenage years. There is that group, and I'm going to say women. I don't know if this occurs in men as much because I have to say, when I was younger, I was really focused on those skinny women because I wanted to be one and I wasn't. And I couldn't understand that when I went out with my friends, how they could drink a lot of beer or eat all those burgers or eat the french fries, eat the candy, eat the sundaes, and they just didn't gain weight. And what did it mean to their health? I wasn't really thinking about that. I was much more superficial in high school. I was just looking at like, why can't I eat that and look that good? And they didn't work out a lot. That was the other thing. So I thought, oh, must be exercise related. They're eating a lot of junk, but then they're working out like crazy. And the truth was, they weren't. They were just naturally thin. Now, one of the correlations that I've seen later in life is that some of these young people who ate whatever they wanted later in life actually did struggle with obesity. So there was this point where like something switched inside their body and all of a sudden they couldn't lose weight. So that might be you. And I think that could be really, really hard for people because they're used to their body just doing what it naturally did. And they looked the way they looked and they felt good, right? But the truth is that a bad lifestyle is going to have an impact. It might not have an impact right away, but it's going to have an impact. And that's what we want to be critically sensitive to. We want to make sure that you're super healthy because we don't want that visceral fat to be building up. So if you have one of those skinny but poorly lifestyle teenagers in your life, you may want to actually take a moment to sit down with them and talk to them about nutrition, to talk to them about lifestyle and why better choices down the road could have better outcomes. But I know it's hard to talk to teenagers. Maybe you need to find someone else to do it, or a book or a video or a podcast. Like invite them in here and we can talk to them. I would love to talk to them. So, the risks found in the amount of hidden body fat. Researchers at the National University of Singapore, where there's all kinds of skinny people, by the way. I lived in Singapore. I love Singapore. It's my favorite place on earth. And one of the things I noticed, especially about people of Chinese descent. Now, Singapore is a melting pot. It's a little bit like America. And although their largest population is of Chinese descent, they also have Indians and Malays and Caucasians and people from Africa and all over the world, right? So it is a big melting pot. But one of the things you notice is that there is a culture of being rather thin, although some of their foods are very, um, well, I feel like their food is in general a little bit healthier, but that sort of Western diet is getting pushed across the world and they're adopting some of our bad habits. And so you don't necessarily see a lot of obesity, although you see it from time to time. But what you do see is unhealthy, skinny people. So, what's going on there? And I think it's fascinating that they decided to do the study in Singapore because it makes sense to me that you'd have so many unhealthy, thin people. It's a great population to really dive deeply and take a look at what might be going on. And so what they found was that they looked at 76 lean and apparently healthy subjects. I think apparently is the most key word there in their early 40s. And they found that those who had early signs of imminent diabetes had more excess visceral fat packed within their abdominal cavities. Okay, so that's that hidden fat. So these are the skinny fat people. A special imaging technique called a DEXA scan. So this is something that you might want to ask your doctor about. It's a dual energy X-ray absorptionometry. Say that 3 times fast. Was Let's just call it a DEXA scan. Was used to determine the amount of fat within their bodies. People with lean diabetes can have severe complications from this condition because of damage to small blood vessels in the retina, kidneys, and nerves. Okay. So that's really, really important. So you can be this skinny fat person and end up with problems with your vision, with your kidneys, which of course is a filtering organ and a major, major player in the art of staying healthy and living a long life, and your nervous system, which, we know that Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, and even autism now is being called type 3 diabetes. And so let's lock into that because there could be an easy fix to all of this. The complications they come with a heavy price, according to Dr. Lee. A German study showed that people with lean diabetes were more likely to require insulin to treat their diabetes than their counterparts. And remarkably, they had a 2.5 times higher risk of mortality than those people who were obese. Now, for those of you who might be diabetic and obese, this is not the moment for you to go, whoo, I'm out of the woods, I'm okay, everything's fine. Diabetes is no big deal. Diabetes is a big deal, and it should be a warning sign, an alarm that you need to stop and rethink your lifestyle and start to incorporate slowly good foods. Like I always think that changing your lifestyle is a little bit like turning a cruise ship. If you do it too severely, you're going to tip the ship and it's just going to sink. We don't want you to fail. We want you to succeed. So we want you to turn your lifestyle steadily, but slowly. Okay. We want you to turn it in a way that's going to actually build good habits and is going to be long lasting and steady and strong. So, when I was changing my lifestyle, the first thing that I decided that I could walk away from was diet soda. Now, you may say, isn't diet soda better than drinking regular soda? And actually, studies have shown that it's not. It might be as harmful or even more harmful than drinking a sugar filled soda. And that doesn't give you license to drink those, of course, but just knowing that maybe the word diet isn't putting you in a better category. And so I really did a good inventory of my lifestyle and I wrote down everything that I thought I was doing, right? I kind of looked at the week, and every time I did something, I wrote it down. I was very, very critical. And I don't mean that in like a punitive way, but just in a detail focused way. I didn't leave anything out. I didn't share it with anybody. This was for my own examination. And I looked, and then I ordered everything from worst to best. And so I remember when I was working on getting off some of the worst things in my life, I created something healthier for me to fill in that gap. And at one point, I had a really high sugar addiction. And so I moved to bread with butter and honey. Even before the glucose goddess came out, even before anything else came out, there was something that said to me, I guess the taste really, that I wasn't going to eat it without the butter. The butter was really important. And we now know that anchoring your carbohydrates with a fat is the thing that slows down that glucose spike. And that's really, really good. I didn't know it at the time, but it actually worked in my favor. Increasing fats are a good thing. It's the sugar that causes obesity, it is not the fat. You need the fat for your brain, you need the fat for your organ function. In fact, the, the predominance or the most of your calories should come from fats of everything else that you eat. Isn't that fascinating? Now, that doesn't mean you have to eat high volumes of fat because fats are concentrated energy sources. And so a little fat can go a long way, produces tons and tons of energy. So just keep that in mind when you're planning your meals, like almost like you're putting a puzzle together. Make sure you have some really good fats, especially if you're eating carbohydrates. And of course, we want to eat those slow carbs. We want to eat those, resistant starches, right? We don't want to eat those fast carbs that are going to go through us and cause us to gain weight. And especially if it's going to cause us to gain visceral fat, right? So 2.5 times more likely to die if you're skinny fat. All right. So the most important thing is to find out your numbers, right? That's where we start. We first have to kind of analyze our lifestyle, look at our numbers, and move on from there. All right. Now, the second thing we want to talk about today is your brain when it comes to fat. So how is your brain affected by fat? So having too much fat literally messes with your head, which I thought was interesting. A study at the University College of London examined 9,000, this is a big study, 652 middle-aged people and showed that those who were obese had a slightly smaller brain. So the heavier you are, your brain starts to shrink. Your heart gets bigger, but your brain starts to shrink. Not a good thing. 2.4% smaller than the person of a healthy weight. The affected region of the brain was the gray matter, the part that controls movement, memory, speech, emotion, decision making, and self control. In other words, the executive function that is essential for daily living. So, how many elderly people do you know that are dealing with problems with movement, memory, speech, emotion, decision making, and self control? Okay. The longer you spend with someone over 65, the more you say, oh my gosh, could this be a reaction to the reduction of gray matter in their brain? And what's causing that? What's causing that is too much sugar and insulin insensitivity in the body. So we want to reduce fat, even in someone who's older. And so I hear from people all the time, at your age, you can eat what you want. Well, I guess that's true if you're not looking to live any longer. But if you want to bring your lifestyle and your, I should say, your lifespan down the road a little bit, then you definitely want to rethink that phrase and think about what you're eating and the effect that it has on your body. So, another study done when it comes to the brain, it says research led by a team at the Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine in Florida found that older people who had sarcopenic obesity, low muscle mass, but high body fat had higher rates of cognitive impairment. So, another thing we talk about on the show all the time, how much muscle do you have? You want to be able to do some basic muscle building activities that look like life, right? So, picking something up from the floor, bringing it close to your chest, improving your posture, pulling your shoulders back, and being able to lift it up above your head and put it on a shelf. That's what you want to be able to do. You also want to be able to take that thing off the shelf, lift it up if you need to, pull it close to you, and put it on the floor. So, just getting some weights and doing that general movement as much as you can is going to build muscle. And that building of muscle is actually going to build your brain. It's going to keep your brain solid as you enter later in life. And that's what we focus on here at Radical Age Reversal. So, higher amounts of body fat had lower attention span, poorer visual spatial ability, and immediate as well as delayed memory problems compared to those with less fat. Now, here's the last brain study that he talks about in the book. It says an even larger study was conducted in Canada that examined 9,189 subjects across an age span ranging from 30 to 75. The researchers assessed body composition, specifically the visceral fat, the skinny fat, right? Skinny fat, and assessed brain function using brain imaging and standard cognitive tests. The results showed that having lots of visceral fat is associated with vascular brain injury and reduced cognitive function. The explanation is excess body fat provokes chronic inflammation, which disrupts healthy brain function. Okay, that's a lot to take in, and we're going to stop there for today. We're on page 26. As I said before, we're going to go slowly through this book because there's so many things that we can do. So, what are our takeaways from today? Number one, you want to get a scan, whether it's a DEXA scan or another scan or even a smart scale. Find out what your visceral fat looks like. The second test you want to make sure that you have is your fasting insulin, not your fasting glucose, but your fasting insulin. How insulin sensitive are you? Find that out. And thirdly, you want to actually make a list of your lifestyle choices that includes food, exercise, sleep, and relationships. Write everything down and try to one by one remove the worst of the worst. Okay. Get those off the list as soon as you can. Now, what kind of good things can we put in our day to help with our situation with being too skinny fat and also to help our brain function? I pulled out something I want to talk about today, which is doTERRA frankincense. Now, of all the essential oils I've ever used in my lifetime, as many favorites as I have, frankincense always rises to the top there. It's always in the top 5 because what it can do. Now, it is an amazing essential oil, and now doTERRA is doing a great job of expanding the line and the way that they're using frankincense, which is becoming much more valuable to us as a consumer because you're going to be able to actually extract from the frankincense resin and the essential oil more benefits because of the product extension that they've created. And so let's talk about some ways that you can use this oil every day. First and foremost, you should be inhaling this oil at least once a day. Why is that? because we're activating our olfactory system. Now, we breathe in a lot of toxins in a day. We want to make sure that we're also stimulating our olfactory system with something that's going to be health giving. Frankincense has been studied for its effects on the brain and its ability to improve cognitive function and memory and processing. So, just inhaling that essential oil is wonderful. It can be considered a little bit expensive, although in the month of December, you can get a bottle for free. Put a note in the comment section if you want to learn more about that, and I'll share with you what a deal that is. It only happens once a year, so you get a full 15 ml bottle for free in the month of December with an order of 200 points or more. And we can show you how to get something, stock up on some of the things you need just so you can get that frankincense. I think if you're using that frankincense every day, you can stretch that frankincense bottle out over 3 months, which is really, really great. If you can only afford one bottle of frankincense a year, then you could use it once a week, but you want to use it on a regular interval. And the first way, as I said before, you want to inhale it so that you really, really feed your brain. Now, if you can do this more than once in a day, then you're going to see even more benefit. Whatever's left on your hands, I always say put on the back of your neck because that's going to be close to your spine and that's going to help with the nervous system. Remember what we said, the nervous system starts to break down as you age. So you have to put something into the nervous system to help maintain it so it doesn't break down. Another great way to use frankincense now, and originally I would have said to use the oil, but this time I'm going to say go to the new product extension, which is the frankincense stick. And this is on your skin. As your skin ages, you lose elasticity and you also lose some of the ability to regenerate those cells, especially under the eye. I do this even over my makeup. And what it is a stick that's made of frankincense, niaowood essential oil, which is another really, really good skin oil, some tapioca, and some coconut oil. And what's great about the tapioca is it keeps the coconut oil more solid, so it's easier to use as a stick. It has a little bit of a feel of like a roll-on deodorant if you're just trying to figure out, what does this thing feel like? So this can be put on your hands, it can be put on your face, it can actually be used all over your body. You can even use this as a deodorant. It's going to be very good for your pores, especially if you shave under your arms. And it's going to get into your lymphatic system. That's going to keep that clean. And a cleaner lymphatic system is less likely to develop cancers. And we know that a lot of women end up with breast cancers because of the chemicals found in the deodorants they use because your armpits are so close to your breast tissue and they're connected to your lymphatic system. How many times have you heard someone say, I had breast cancer, but they also had to remove the lymph nodes? Well, there is a strong connection there. So you want to make sure that you are always giving good things to that part of your body and to improving your body system. Again, this is not medical advice. This is just common sense. If something is going to attack you, you want to have some type of defense. And you can do a PubMed search on frankincense or boswellic acid or alpha pinene and look at all of the benefits of the frankincense plant and how you can start to use it in a prevention mode, right? We're always going to be in that offensive mode. We don't want to play defense if we don't have to, right? If we're always playing offense, we shouldn't have to switch to defense, which brings me to the last product that I absolutely love, which is this really cool frankincense capsule. And what I love about it is it combines the frankincense essential oil, which we've been taking internally for years and years and years to keep our bodies healthy. But also now we get this cool boswellic acid in there. And the BA, as they like to call it now, are these little tiny bubbles. Can you see that? That float around in the capsule. And I love them. And again, if you want to see all the great benefits of boswellic acid, go ahead and do a PubMed search. But there are plenty of studies being done that show its protective qualities from disease prevention to restoration of cells to defense against chronic and short-term diseases to promoting more youthful glow of the skin, organ function, brain function, better breathing, you name it. So this is a daily tonic and you only have to take one a day. This I use throughout the day, especially in the winter months when it tends to make my skin drier. And then again, this is now my big go to for my lungs. What am I doing for my lungs? You can also take this oil and put a drop under your tongue as well. That's what we used to do before we had these really cool frankincense capsules. So, either way, whatever you want to do, both are fine. But I also want to give you sort of a pro tip that I'm excited about. This is a new product from doTERRA for the holiday season. It's called Gardenia lotion. And gardenias have so many health benefits, especially for the skin. It's one of those beauty secrets that you find in all these really, really expensive products. And probably they're using a synthetic gardenia. This is natural gardenia in a natural lotion, which I love. And what I like to do is actually add to my gardenia lotion just a drop of frankincense. The smell is unbelievable, the combination of the two. And this, I promise you, is going to be the most emollient, soothing, silky hand lotion you have ever used in your life. So much so that I would use this as a body lotion. I think this is going to be a wonderful addition to my winter routine. And you can also put frankincense on anything that's sore and aching. So if you want to alternate with deep blue or alternate with aroma touch, this becomes a great third to put in your rotation. So, some good tips, some things to think about, some tests for you to take this week. So, lots in store, lots of homework for you to do, but hopefully it's not overwhelming and you will see the benefits very quickly. Whatever you can do to implement any of these different tips during the week and the years ahead, you're going to see yourself aging in a really beautiful, gentle way. So, here's to breaking the limits of age and living each day with vitality. Keep thriving, and I'll see you in the next episode of Radical Age Reversal.